is 5 o'clock. Mr. Tidwell's running a few minutes late, but we do have Garrett Wilson, Carlin Fryer, myself, Donna Sharp, got Rich Sena, Jessica Viala Burnett, and Maritza Gonzalez Cooper here, so we do have a quorum. And we will now go into closed session, and it's 5:01 to discuss, actually, personnel pursuant to Texas Government Code 551.074, deliberation regarding matters related to employment, appointments, resignations, terminations, retirements, and reassignments. Hello, Dr. Tidwell. Come on in. Okay, and so actually we now have a full quorum because Dr. Tidwell has joined us. Now I will take us into closed session, and the time is 5:01. Thank you very much. Good timing. Good evening, everyone. Good evening. We are now coming out. We have come out of our closed session, and we're going to come into open session, and it is now 6:30. And at this moment, if everybody would please stand, and we're going to say the Pledge of Allegiance.
Colors. Halt. Present. Colors. Order, arms, colors, post. Colors, turn, arch.
Okay, so first item on our agenda is to approve the agenda. Do I have a motion?
Second.
I have a motion. I have a second. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor of the motion, please say aye. Opposed, please say nay. Motion passes 7-0. Mr. Benway, are you ready to announce our accommodations?
Yes, Madam President, thank you. Madam President, Board of Trustees, Dr. Price, our distinguished guest tonight. This is, in my humble opinion, the best part of our board meetings, honoring our students and our staff. We are honoring over 120 combined student and staff members here tonight for various accomplishments, and we are so excited for you to be here to help us honor with them. Our first commendation tonight is Bernie Middle School North Assistant Principal Zach Bechet. Mr. Bechet has been selected as the Region 20 Outstanding Assistant Principal of the Year by the Texas Association of Secondary School Principals. Nominations for this award are based upon exemplary performance and outstanding leadership. As a Region 20 winner, Mr. Bechet is eligible to compete for the state title of Texas Assistant Principal of the Year. Mr. Bechet is a 6-year assistant principal and has been a member of the leadership team at Bernie Middle School North since 2018. Big hand for Mr. Zach Bechet. And Dr. Price just pointed out to me, this is the second year in a row that a Bernie ISD assistant principal has earned this honor. She is actually now our current principal at HERF, and she's here tonight. So, Ms. Miller, back-to-back awards.
Congratulations.
Our next commendation is a very fun one for us. It's the DePablo family from Fair Oaks Ranch Elementary. The DePablo family were the 10,000th and 10,001st students enrolled in Bernie ISD, helping us set an all-time enrollment record. What this also does, it's very important, is that enrollment helps us stay out of recapture, and that's a very important thing for us here in the district. And Dr. Price surprised the DePablo family in school as the honorary recipient. So let's play the video of that surprise.
Hi everybody, we're here to surprise the 10,000th student in BISD. Let's go get them.
So I have a pretty big surprise to share. So as you know, our district's getting bigger, and here at Fair Oaks Ranch Elementary, our campus enrolled the 10,000th family last week. The DePablo family.
Congratulations on being the 10,000th student in Bernie ISD history.
Congratulations once again to the DePablo family. If we can line up for a photograph. Also here with us tonight is Fair Oaks Ranch Principal Jessica Schultz, who helped us make the announcement that day. You did a great job, and obviously capturing an image for social media, which we love as well.
You want a picture with us? Come on.
Our next commendation is champion and Bernie Academy student Reese Dunham. Come on down, Reese. Congratulations. Reese recently won the grand champion title at the Texas Best Show Series in Waco. He also earned top honors in the wool category. There were over 30 participants in the senior category at the Waco event that Reese took first place in. We are very proud of Reese's accomplishments and know he will continue to have future success in those events. So congratulations to Reese. And if we could have Reese's family and supporters, where are you at? We want to make sure you recognize you all. Wave to us. Thank you very much for showing up tonight. We appreciate it.
Congratulations.
For our next two commendations, if we could have our athletic director, Coach Leach, come on up, because our next two recipients are not here this evening. They're coaching in matches. So our next commendation, Bernie High School volleyball coach, Tisha Pettibon. Let's give Coach Pettibon a big round of applause. Coach Pettibon is not able to be here as the Greyhounds are playing Lavernia tonight. Go Greyhounds! Coach Pettibon won her 400th career match recently in the Greyhounds' win over San Antonio Marshall. 300 of her career wins are here with the Greyhounds, who she has guided to the regional tournament 3 times. We look forward to the continued success of Coach Pettibon and the Greyhounds volleyball team. So Coach Leach, and I think I saw Coach Hendricks was possibly here earlier. Congratulations to the Greyhounds and Coach Pettibon. Thank you very much. And then we'll let Coach Leach up here for one more. Our next commendation is champion volleyball coach, Jessica Tully Mitchell. Let's give Coach Tully Mitchell a round of applause. She is unable to be here tonight as the Chargers are playing their rival Kerrville Tivy. Go Chargers tonight. Coach Tully Mitchell won her 100th career match in the Chargers' win over Clyde. She's in her 3rd season with the Chargers, and we are proud of her and their success. So big round of applause for our 2 volleyball coaches. And if we could have Coach Leach get a photo with our board and Dr. Price. And Coach Kaiser's here as well, our athletic coordinator at Champion. And Bernie High School Principal Shane Wilson will be in place for Coach Pettibon. Thank you all. Our next commendations are a large group, and we are very proud of these students. Our 2021-2022 Bernie ISD Student Advisory Council members. Let's give them a round of applause. The council is made up of a total of 34 student leaders from Champion and Bernie High School. The students will be working with Dr. Price and district administration on important events and topics, as well as providing student feedback on district initiatives. The council will meet 4 times this school year, twice at Bernie High and twice at Champion High School. The council held their first official meeting of the school year last week. It was fantastic. You guys did a great job. And they discussed the Bernie ISD long-range plan, and we'll discuss other topics throughout the year. So let's give them a round of applause, our great Student Advisory Council. Are any parents or supporters of the Advisory Council here? Can you raise your hands? I know you're all taking pictures. This is awesome. Thank you all for coming and showing your support. And if we can attempt this picture, Eric, that would be great. Thank you all for coming. Love the polo shirts, by the way. Our next commendation, this is a very special commendation tonight. Our PE partners from Bernie Middle School South. Coach Travis Fallon, student athletes Zach Garcia and Caitlin Kleising, and who you see before us tonight, life skills student athlete Carter Wingfield. Let's give Carter a really big round of applause. With the assistance of his friends at Bernie Middle School South and Coach Fallon, Carter was able to compete in a recent cross-country meet at South in front of cheering fans. We have video of that. Let's take a look.
Go, Carter, go.
That was such a great day at Bernie Middle School South. And they're not here with us tonight, but we want to thank Coach Fallon and student athlete Zach Garcia and Caitlin Kleising. And of course, congratulations to Carter. Let's get our photo with our board and with Mom. Great story. Great job, Carter. Our next commendation is a fantastic program, the Champion Welding Program. Let's welcome them. These incredible Champion Welding students took on the challenge of creating 13 fully customized signs to be displayed at each of the Bernie ISD campuses. These students put in hundreds of hours of work that went well past the instructional day to get these signs completed. This task tested their creative skills, their CAD skills, sheet cam programming, plasma skills, fabrication skills, welding skills, and their ability to work as a team. The grind to the finish included selecting the correct powder coatings that matched each school's colors with UV protection, very important, while also engineering each sign's frames to hold the sign in a way that maintenance could be done to them for years to come. They went above and beyond the call of duty, and we have a video, if y'all can turn around, we have a video that was produced with more of their great work on these signs. Let's take a look. That's awesome. Great job. Thank you to their instructor, Dorman Vick, and these fantastic students. Do we have any parents of our welders that are here tonight? I saw a couple hands go up. Thank you very much for your support as well. And we'll get a photo with our board and with Dr. Price. So you will see these signs being installed at a school near you. Great job. Congratulations. Thank you, Dr. Price.
Vic, before you go, one of the things I want to thank you for, after 4 years, I wish I could clone your passion for your program. And it shows in the success of your students, not only here, but once they leave us. And I want to thank you for always pushing, and we want more of our teachers to be just like you. So thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Darwin.
I know. I got to top Dr. Price. The vision the kids had for these signs, it would not be possible without this man right here believing in these kids and okaying this project to move forward. So we hope that the community loves it. It wouldn't have been possible without Dr. Price's support to get it going. We thank him for that.
Thank you very much. And they'll probably make a sign for your house, too, if you want them to. Just ask them. We have 2 more commendations left, 2 that we're very excited about. Our next commendation, please welcome champion architecture and interior design teacher, Lenice Graves. Welcome, Lenice, once again. Mrs. Graves is no stranger to being commended by the board. She recently passed the National Kitchen and Bath Association Associate Kitchen and Bath Designer Certification Exam. It's the first of 3 certifications. Next year, she will qualify to sit for the NKBA Certified Kitchen and Bath Designer Exam, which will entail having to design 4 kitchens and 4 baths in 72 hours and take a 150-question exam on the rest of the curriculum. This is a great opportunity for Mrs. Graves and her students to learn from the absolute best. So let's give her a great hand for all her hard work. She'll design your bathroom as well if you ask her. Thank you, Ms. Graves. We appreciate it. Our final commendation tonight we are extremely excited about. It's the Bernie ISD Band, Choir, and Orchestra Directors and our music teachers. So come on up. We also have our Director of Fine Arts, Mr. Ken Peach, as well. And we wanted to thank this incredible group for their hard work, and their students have reached new heights in the past few years, and it's because of the work that these folks do. The quality of work and performances our students have achieved is a direct result of our directors and our music teachers. And they also represented Bernie ISD well with their spectacular performance at our 2021 Convocation. They did a fantastic job to come in during the summer, and when they have band practice and practice over the summer, we wanted to thank them for all the work that they put in. So please, a big round of applause for these fine folks right here. Thank you very much. Let's have one more hand for all of our commendations tonight. We're extremely proud to have honored all these fine individuals here this evening. And Madam President, I will yield the floor back to you after Dr. Price says a few words.
We have one more recognition that is kind of a surprise. The communications department in this COVID era has really gone above and beyond. Brian joined us after about the 2nd month of the COVID, and Eric joined us shortly after. So they've never known the experience of having a normal educational year. They have done remarkable things as far as the videos you've seen, getting information out to the public, even though it's sometimes not what people want to hear, and also just updating our webpage. And we wanted to take some time to thank you because we know and we've seen how far you've come in that 2 years. So we're waiting anxiously for a time when it's calm and you can really take off. So thank you. You and Eric, we have a little award. It's not as pretty as yours.
Well, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Can we get Eric and Amanda up here?
Yeah.
too?
Let's get them up here. Amanda?
Someone will have to take our picture, though, because that's our job. So, if we could have someone take our photo. Thank you all. That's very nice. Mr. Wilson. And Eric Armenta.
Okay, Brian, where did you go? Are we ready for our Bernie Insider?
Yes.
Yes, I see a bunch of heads saying yes.
We are excited to introduce The Well, a program designed specifically for Bernie ISD staff and families to support you during this uncertain time. There will be separate sessions for BISD parents with the exception of yoga. Meet us at The Well.
Hi everyone, welcome back to the Bernie Insider. I'm Luke Garver, a senior at Champion. Just like our student athletes, cheerleaders, dance teams, and bands, student trainers are an important part of Bernie and Champion athletic programs. From pregame to postgame, student athletic trainers play a large role in high school sports. A total of over 50 student athletic trainers at Bernie and Champion assist the student athletes as they play for the win. The trainers are engaged well before practices and the games begin by taping the players, filling the water bottles, setting up the sidelines, and much more. During games and practices, the trainers are always ready to keep the players healthy.
As a student athletic trainer here, we learn how to do first aid care. We get taught at the beginning of the year how to do CPR and how to work the AED. We get taught how to properly clean a wound.
It's a lot more than just hydration, though. It's making sure that they don't get overheated, that none of their joints are hurting, if they get cramps, stretching them out. Things like that, just making sure that they're healthy and that they can go out on the field and perform the best they can.
Much like an athlete, student trainers must make the team. The students must complete the application process, including writing an essay. Those who are selected gain valuable experience in the future.
I want to do this as a job later on because I just like helping people, and being on the field with the athletes is desirable to me.
It's a great way to stay involved, it's a great way to know people, and it's a great skill to have in life as far as responsibility and respect for others and things like that.
The student trainers aren't just having fun. They earn a grade and gain knowledge that will help enrich them with future careers in the healthcare field.
I would like to be a medical attorney. My family has all been in the medical field, and I have always had an interest with law, so I kind of just tied into things that were very important to me and that I've just grown up with.
The Student Athletic Trainer Program inspires students to learn life lessons, the value of teamwork, as well as build their social emotional skills.
It's really, really important that we are all on the same page out there working together, because if someone goes down, someone gets hurt, we all have to be hands-on, ready for anything that happens. And even when we're cleaning and stuff, cleaning fast and efficient is really, really important. So the better that we work together and the better friends we are, all of us are best friends. So it really works out well that we work really good as a team.
I look forward to this every day. You know, after we sit in class all day, it's nice to actually come out here and be in the fresh air and be outside, and just, it's a great way to kind of end the day.
Student trainers are a valuable resource for our coaches and players. Many of them will go on to have careers in the healthcare profession. This is an excellent opportunity for Bernie ISD students to gain hands-on experience. Thank you for tuning in to this episode of the Bernie Insider. I'm Luke Greiber.
That was a fun episode for us. Could we give the students a round of applause? We're going to call them up in a second. One of the things that we've tried to do with the Bernie Insider is have more student hosts, have more student interviews, and this was the first episode of the new school year. And so we want to call up our fine students that are here that did a great job, not only in the video, but day in and day out for what they do. So first up, he did a great job as the host. You're going to take my job someday. Luke Garver from Champion. Come on up, Luke. How are you, sir? Fun fact about Luke, last night he played the mascot and the parade from UTSA, by the way. So if you were at the Champion Parade, Luke was running around in the Roadrunner outfit. So you did a great job there last night, too. Our trainers from Champion, Blake Fryer, please come on down. Cheney Graham, and Taylor Barrett. And then we have here with us as well our assistant athletic director and the head trainer, Mr. Terry Galt. Please come on up, Terry. From Bernie High School, did a great job, Bernardo Guerrero. Please come on up, Bernardo. And Susanna Cobb. Come on up, Susanna. And then the head athletic trainer at Bernie High School, Megan Patton. Welcome, Megan. Madam President, Board of Trustees, do we have questions, comments for our student athletic trainers? Maybe one of you knows one of them.
I do happen to know one of them, but I'd ask each of you, actually, do you have plans to continue this path out of high school into college and as a career? Cheney, I know you said yes, but, well.
I mean, I didn't really know what I was going to do after high school until I joined this program, and I really liked it, and I want to kind of follow in footsteps of Terry and be like a high school athletic trainer. So.
Yeah. I think that everything we learn in training kind of helps us grow as people and become whatever we want to do. I want to be in the law field, but I'm also thinking about being a dermatologist. So both of those tie in greatly with training.
I think, like I said in the video, those skills that we learn, the respect, the responsibility, the time management, stuff like that's going to help us all in the long run. Doesn't matter where we're going and doing, but the skills that we've learned from Terry and Megan are definitely going to help us carry ourselves in the future. So.
Thank you. Yeah, definitely going off what they said, everything we learn is super important. A lot of our athletes, the way we treat them in the training room, doing physical therapy and things like that, but they go on to do other things, and I would really like to see the background of what they do outside of our office in certain physical therapy offices. So that's what I would like to do when I go on.
I also want to become an athletic trainer, as a head athletic trainer, actually. And hopefully come back to Bernie ISD and to Bernie High School. And
Take my job.
If the assistant position
No
opens,
pressure.
I can work with it. Thank you.
Well, Luke, what about you? Obviously not from a training standpoint, but
Thank you.
Brian thinks you've got a career in.
Yeah, he told me I should go host an NFL game afterward or whatnot, but I don't know. No aspirations to go into the medical field. I get a little queasy at that kind of thing. And I don't know if I could hold up to Mr. Benway's job. He and Mr. Eric made my job super easy. So thank you, sir.
Well, for our head trainers, both of you, I have been to a lot of football games, as I know many of us have, and I have seen this program grow so incredibly. It's like a bunch of mini professionals out there literally helping. You're not just giving water to the athletes, you are actually helping them. You're making a huge difference. I see it. So it's grown a little bit, huh?
It has grown. This is my 21st year, and my first year when I showed up had 4 students. Mm-hmm. So I think it's grown a little bit. We're up to almost 60 between the 2 high schools. So growth and student involvement, and that's what we try to focus on.
I was at a UTSA football game and I saw some trainers out there. So there is opportunity to do that after high school, in college too, evidently. So very exciting.
And I just wanted to say thank you to my students. This is my second year here. I haven't quite had a normal year either yet. But I really couldn't do it without my students, and they're truly the backbone of our program. And I really appreciate Terry's support and everybody's support that's allowed me to be here. And it's been a great year and a half.
I was at the Champion and Laredo football game, and I saw when one of our the Laredo team member went down, I saw how our athletic trainers also responded. So you're not only taking care of our players, but to our visitors that come and play against us. I saw that everybody was up and on the ready for them. So thank you for that too.
Okay, thank you very much. One more round of applause. Fantastic job. Thank you very much for coming. If we can get our photo, did we get a photo real quick, please, of the group? That would be great. If you fall on the way out, they will help you. Great job. Thank you very much for being here and all your hard work. Madam President, I yield the floor back to you. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Benway. Okay, so next on our agenda is consider action, if any, regarding items discussed in closed session. I don't believe we have anything out of that. So next on our agenda is visitor comments. And I want to thank everybody for waiting so patiently. I mean, this is a very important part of our meeting, so I appreciate you and being patient. So I do want to read our policy around, I had it right here, just a moment. Okay, the board encourages comments about the district from citizens of the district or from district employees. Anyone wishing to speak, either as an individual or as a representative of a group, may do so at this time. The board asks that each participant's comments pertain to public education and be no longer than 3 minutes. The overall time limit for comments will be 30 minutes. Remember that the board may not discuss or act upon any issues that are not posted on our agenda. If an issue mentioned is listed on tonight's agenda, the board will defer discussion of the issue until the appropriate time during the meeting. The board encourages the public to discuss concerns with an appropriate administrator who has the authority to address the concerns. Concerns should be expressed as soon as possible to allow any resolution at the lowest possible administrative level. Finally, please be aware that rules of decorum will be enforced during the public comment period and throughout the meeting. Those who choose to engage each participant is legally responsible for the content and consequences of his or her own statements. So with that, I am going to begin with the first person listed on our list for this evening, Erica Sines.
Does this work? Okay. Yes, all right. Does my time begin now? Okay. I just want to thank the BISD board members first for their time and hearing us today. Today, I ask the board to please consider our student and our faculty's health and safety. My children, along with hundreds of other children in the district, are unable to be vaccinated due to their age group. There are also numerous children in our district who are considered high risk and have special needs, which make them more vulnerable to COVID-19 infections. My daughter is one of those children. My family and I have done everything that we can per CDC recommendations to mitigate those risks, but my protection is limited when she goes to school because the school is not providing that safety overall. Last week, BISD reported over 610 positive COVID cases within this school year. These 610 cases have exceeded the total amount of COVID positive cases that we had in the school district last year. In addition to that, we have had 85 people in Kendall County die from COVID. Due to the high numbers of infections, my children have been exposed multiple times at school alone this year. During the last exposure, we voluntarily quarantined, but we were never provided the e-learning information that was instructed to us. I requested it from the district, and still at day 4 of quarantine, we were never provided the information to do e-learning. So I ask the board to take the following issues into consideration for the next agenda or for solutions. Please expedite the COVID-19 exposure notices to parents. Provide timely information for e-learning for those parents that are in quarantine. Provide teachers ample time within their school day to have students wash their hands. My children are not being instructed to wash their hands before lunch or after recess. To provide social distancing guidelines for the teachers. Provide possibly tables that face the same direction where the children are not facing each other to reduce the risk of COVID. And I finally ask that you reach out to Governor Abbott's office and ask him to drop this mandate so we can provide the protection needed for our students. Lastly, I would like to address the comments that were made by the BISD spokesperson. He stated only a handful of parents were concerned about BISD's handling of COVID-19 and that those statements by those parents were fabricated. I have a petition here signed by over 220 parents in the Bernie district that state otherwise. In addition, I have another group of 700 parents that have reached out and concerns and are in the process of signing the petition. I urge you to please consider these concerns that we have and to provide better protection for our students. I thank you for your time.
Thank you. Next up is Benjamin Schill. Good evening.
Hi, good evening. My name is Ben Schill. I moved to Bernie because it's a fantastic place to live and a great place to raise my family. I'm also in the military, and in military leadership, I've been in positions where people are asking for, one, a specific policy to be enacted, or two, where a specific policy was dictated to me. So I can certainly understand the pressures of your position of leadership. Thank you for leading. I'm mostly here to encourage you, by the way. When people are asking you to take action, as in the mask issue, I sincerely want to encourage you as an elected body to ask yourself, what is our obligation? Remember, your obligation is to solve for educational outcomes for the wonderful children of Bernie ISD. You can't solve for the health outcomes of the kids. That's on the parents. You can't solve for the health outcomes of we, the parents, and you certainly can't solve for the health outcomes of those in the community who are sadly most vulnerable to death and complications from this coronavirus. I'm referring to the infirm, the elderly, the immunocompromised, or those suffering from unique conditions which make them vulnerable, sadly. Health outcomes lie squarely on the shoulders of we, the parents of the children, not the ISD. We're the ones who make sure they're fed. We stay up with them when they're sick, and we're the ones who pay the taxes that fund our schools. We elected you, and we will continue to re-elect you for great policies. Thank you. Let me repeat. Your obligation is to the educational outcomes of the children, and those elected you to your positions are telling you loud and clear, please don't impose further restrictions on the kids regarding health protocols. We all have a moral obligation to the greater society. When we're sick, we stay home, and when our kids are sick, we keep them at home. To the board, nobody's dictating you that you have to act on any policy here. Your very best move is to keep the policy you currently have in place. And that policy has led to record enrollment in our schools. It has not lowered our attendance rates. And it has not made people leave Bernie in search of a better place to raise their kids. Here are some supporting numbers from the CDC. Nationally, since this whole thing started 2 years ago, 4.8 million kids under 17 have been diagnosed with COVID. 361 have died. And that's sad, but that's a 99.99% survival rate. Thank goodness COVID is not a mortal danger to our kids. Real threats include accidents and suicide, and you're aware of this, and you protect against those sorts of things. You know, in 2018, 1 year, 12,000 kids died by accidents, and 6,000 school-age kids killed themselves. That's a mental health crisis. Thank you for protecting us against those. Protect us, and parents, we should be protecting against those threats and the battle for our kids' minds and souls, not masks. To the school board, your policy is a good one. If anybody wants to wear a mask, I fully support you. And if anyone attempts to force me or my kids to wear a mask, I fully don't support you. And that's because I know they won't stop there. These people don't stop at masks. The pro-mask crowd is a similar crowd that has been wrecking the education system across the nation. And they're not moving to urban Chicago or New York or even San Antonio in droves. They're sprinting to Bernie because we have great policies and great leadership. You're doing a great job. Please keep the policies that we have in place. You're doing a wonderful job in giving my kids and a lot of kids a normal school year. Thank you.
Next up, Stacy Martinez.
thank you for your time, and the two before me are going to make me look terrible because I'm more of an off-the-cuff kind of person than a read-the-script kind of person. But much like Ben, I'm here to support you and to thank you for providing our kids with a really good, solid school year that's more normal for them. You know, I think to Erica's point, you know, it's a common response for people to be scared, you know, to fear for their kids and want to do the right thing. I think it's very common for people who have that fear to be the more vocal ones. So I wanted to come and say thank you and let you know that there is support for you in the community. I've also been part of some of their groups online, and I haven't been welcomed, and I'm hoping that we can turn that around. That as a community, we can come together with different viewpoints and find some common ground. Because in the end, I really do believe the only thing that matters is the health, education, well-being of our kids. So it's so much more than, you know, are they in mass or are they not in mass? It's the holistic picture for them. In the end, you know, I don't think anyone's going to have everything that they want. You know, mask, no mask, vaccine, no vaccine. It's not political. It is about our kids. And we all need to come together and compromise for what's best for the community as a whole. Thank you.
Thank you. Next up is Allison Liao.
Good evening. My name is Allison Leal. I'm here on behalf of Bernie Parents for Student Safety. We are a group of parents concerned about COVID protocols in Bernie. We have tried to communicate with the board through emails and phone calls, but our concerns have not been addressed. Our goal is to open a collaborative dialogue with the people making decisions for our children. Specifically, we would like to discuss adding more layers to the protocols. There are many options presented in literature from the American Academy of Pediatrics, such as increased ventilation in classrooms. We believe expert guidelines should be considered for the safety of our kids. We'd also like to see administration and teachers lead by example with mask wearing until all children have the ability to be vaccinated. We would just like our voices to be heard. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Next up is Stacy Schill.
Hi, my name is Stacy Schill. I'm a mom to 5 kids. I was a registered nurse and worked in the school district before, a different school district before I had children. I've home educated my children for the last 8 years before starting them in school this very year. I have an 8th grader at North and 2 at Currington, and 2 younger ones still home with me. I want to thank you guys for the courageous work you guys have been doing in the last 18 months and longer. I know it's been challenging, and I appreciate your efforts at maintaining the conservative district that Bernie is known for. The schools in our nation are under attack. There is a great evil in our country that is attempting to indoctrinate our children to a perverse worldview. We see it in the culture, in the media, and even on Disney Plus in our homes. I have seen attempts at this subtle battle for our children's minds in Bernie, and I believe our board members are aware of this education perversion, and I see you fighting hard to keep it at bay. It is for this very reason that I felt comfortable enrolling my kids in the Bernie district. So thank you all for making BISD a safe place for my kids to be enrolled so that could take some of the burden of education off of me. I am not a supporter of mask or vaccine mandates. The evidence is not there to support it, and I have too many children who have been harmed by vaccines and many more who have faced increasing anxiety and negative effects from mask wearing during the school year last year. My 2nd grader is afraid of people in masks and terrified of being made to wear one. There are a few kids in her class and in BISD that are wearing masks, and I fully support their right to do so if they feel more comfortable, but we know that cloth does nothing to stop the spread of sickness. I have a number of friends with kids in BISD, and all but one of them are fully against mask and vaccine mandates. I asked my one friend who voiced her opinion that she wanted mask wearing to be mandatory for Bernie schools why she didn't just have her kids wear masks and let other parents decide for themselves what they wanted for their children. And her reply, and I quote, "I don't want my children to be the only ones wearing masks. I think everyone should wear them so that they don't feel left out." End quote. This type of rationale is precisely the reason why our government is wasting time on social posturing instead of doing its job of protecting our nation against the actual risks it faces. So I applaud our board for protecting our children from the actual risks to children and not bowing to the voices that want to muzzle our kids. Kids are gross, they pick their noses, they put their hands in their mouth daily, all the time. BISD has done an exceptional job of encouraging hand washing and covering sneezes and coughs. I know that Currington put up some sneeze guards in the classrooms. My kids and their teachers are annoyed by these random clear dividers that don't help to do anything but give the kids something to be distracted with, but they're not having the negative effects on our children that masks were. I implore you to continue to fight the nonsensical mandates over a disease that is not a threat to our children. Please continue to keep masks and vaccines optional. Stay strong and keep fighting the battles that are worth fighting. Keep Bernie a place where people want to be a part of the school district. Thank you.
Next on the list is Bethany Jacobs.
Hi there. Thank you for allowing me the chance to address an issue that has caused a great amount of division in our country and in our community. I want to personally thank each of you for giving parents back their ability to make decisions for their children. Thank you for giving us back our right to decide what is best for our families when it comes to medical decisions, care, and prevention. I firmly believe that every person should be allowed to make their own decision on whether or not they should wear a mask in public. That is the most beautiful part of our country. Freedom to choose how to live, and that especially applies to any and all medical care and prevention of disease. If a mask protects someone from COVID, then their wearing one should be enough. Why and when did we decide that our personal decisions on how we protect ourselves should be applied to everyone else? No one is telling people that they cannot wear a mask, yet those of us who do not feel the need to wear a mask are not trying to create a space where they are told they can't wear a mask. Why does someone else's fear of disease apply to me and my family? We are sliding down a slippery slope in this country. If a vaccine reduces your risk of a severe case of COVID, then why does everyone else around you need to be vaccinated? If you're protected, why does everyone feel the need to force everyone else to agree and act in the same way? In July of 2020, the director of the CDC said, and I quote, "The risk of complications for healthy children is higher for flu compared to COVID-19. Deaths for school-age children over the last 5 years are anywhere from 5 to 10 times greater for influenza," end quote. Dr. McCary from Johns Hopkins states the following: "Any child who wants to wear a mask should be free to do so. But forcing them to make personal health and developmental sacrifices for the sake of adults who decide not to get immunized is abusive. Before we order the masking of 56 million Americans who are too young to vote and don't have a lobby, let's see data showing the benefits and weigh them against the long-term harm," end quote. One of my children struggles with dyslexia daily. One of their teachers has decided to wear a mask in class, as it is their right to do so. My child now struggles to hear the teacher and understand what is being asked of them in class on a daily basis on top of their usual struggles with dyslexia. If my child struggles with just one teacher, imagine how difficult last year was for them when everyone around them was masked. Please continue to follow the facts about COVID. Children are not among the vulnerable. We received an email on Friday stating that there are 61 active cases in Bernie. That is 0.5% of the student and teacher population of the district. That's over 10,200 people. You, along with all the BISD staff, who we're so grateful for, are doing an excellent job doing everyday things that reduce the risk of contracting this virus. Our kids are in school and learning without the added struggle of breathing and constant headaches that one of my children came home with daily. Please continue to allow us as parents to make these decisions for and with our children. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Susanna Hogan.
Hello, my name is Susanna Hogan, and I'm the parent of a senior in Bernie ISD. I am also the aunt of one middle school and one elementary school child. All three are high risk. 2 out of the 3 are members of the LGBT community. As the founder of an LGBT youth group in Bernie, I am here to provide you with a bit of data because it's all about education, right? The CDC's Youth Risk Behavior Analysis reported that while 15% of heterosexual high school students thought about suicide, 43% of LGBT students did. Similarly, while 6% of heterosexual students reported a suicide attempt, the increase rose to 29% amongst gay students. More shockingly still, a study reported that 51% of transgender males and 30% of transgender females ages 11 to 19 attempted suicide at least once in their lives. After more research, the Trevor Project confirms 1 in 3 LGBTQ youth reported that they have been physically threatened or harmed due to their identity. 61% of transgender and non-binary youth have been reported being prevented or discouraged from using a bathroom that corresponds with their gender identity. 86 of LGBT youth said that the recent politics have negatively impacted their well-being, while 68% of LGBTQ youth reported symptoms of generalized anxiety disorder in the past 2 weeks, including more than 3 in 4 transgender and non-binary youth. Transgender and non-binary youth who have reported that their pronouns are respected by all or at least most of the people in their lives attempted suicide at least half the rate of those who did not have their pronouns respected. Students have found that the presence of supportive and affirming teachers, including those who share LGBTQ identities, means that queer students are more likely to attend school, have higher self-esteem, and achieve better academic outcomes. After all, it's about the whole child, is it not? That means all children, no child left behind. Right now, you're forgetting that. Many are being left behind. Their voices silenced and their identities erased. Your website also proudly states that Bernie ISD is an equal opportunity employer and provider. A bold statement that right now, you're not living up to. Please do better, step up, and be an empowering, positive example for your students and your staff. Thank you.
Thank you. Lisa Ritter.
Hi, my name is Lisa Ritter. I'm a local attorney and mother to these 3 girls. Addie is a 7th grader at Voss, June is a 6th grader at Voss, and Vivi is a kindergartner at Herf. And this is my husband, Matt, also their dad. So I'm here because I do take personal responsibility for the health of my children. We're here because we ask them to wear masks at school, and they do every day. But unfortunately, the majority of people are not wearing masks, and the effectiveness of masks decreases when fewer people are wearing them. So since school began 5.5 weeks ago, June has officially been exposed to COVID 6 times in her classroom. These are the notices that are emailed to us, and I tried to circle the date so you can kind of see. Addie has been exposed twice in her classrooms. Each time they're exposed, Vivi is exposed by household exposure. So 8 exposures in 29 school days is on average an exposure every 3.5 days. Every 3.5 days, our family has to decide, do we test everyone? Is everyone healthy? We are always getting the rapid tests, either at the school or at HEB. It's very stressful. Additionally, the total positive cases, student and staff in the district thus far, is 610, a number which has surpassed all the positive cases for the last school year, which was 557. We surpassed the entire last year's worth of positive cases in 29 school days. It's clearly extremely contagious, and it's affecting the children more this year than it was last year. Vivi has missed 6 of the last 29 school days due to illness, although she has thus far tested negative for COVID. She is epileptic, and regular illnesses trigger her seizures. Serious illnesses like COVID-19 may trigger more serious grand mal seizures. This is something that's very close to our heart. If you've ever seen a grand mal seizure in a 5-year-old, it's horrible. June and Vivi, just like their classmates, are too young to be vaccinated. They're not eligible for the vaccine yet. So I know you all have children in this district or had children in this district. Mr. Wilson, you have children who are in grade school too young to be vaccinated also. All we're asking is that, can we do something until we can get our kids vaccinated? And if people choose not to vaccinate their kids, that's their choice. But I don't have a choice for my children that are too young to be vaccinated. The question becomes, what are the students in the district worth to you? What are my girls worth to you? To my husband and myself, they're priceless. We would do anything for them. The district receives approximately $6,160. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Up next on our list is Lisa Weaver.
Hello, my name is Lisa Weaver. I am a Bernie parent of a BHS graduate and a current freshman. I would like to share a statement from a parent of an immunocompromised student. Michelle Bertone and her family have been part of the BISD district since 2010. They moved here for the Bernie schools. This is in response to the statement made by BISD district offices on September 8th, 2021 to a news report regarding concerned parents of BISD. BISD did not have any social distancing protocols in place before schools started, even though it was known the Delta variant was spreading in the area. Number two, this led to a surge in COVID-19 cases in all the schools. This led to our district administrative office to be overwhelmed with COVID-19 exposure notices being sent out late. This led to an increase in our hospital system. BISD just recently lost a parent to COVID-19. BISD has taken back a seat to school safety while surrounding schools have taken a front seat to COVID-19 safety mitigations. BISD district is not following TEA guidelines for quarantine time for each family. BISD demonstrated a lack of empathy and sympathy for families and students' health in their responses to parents' emails. Parents' emails have been unanswered, and sometimes responses are not consistent with other parent emails regarding COVID-19 guidelines. Ladies and gentlemen of the board, we are not a handful of parents. We are not shameful, and we did not fabricate any of our stories. We are simply concerned parents who are trying to protect our children and those around them. Our voices matter, our concerns matter, our children matter, and we should not be addressed as shameful or dishonest. Mrs. Bertone feels this is a reflection on your character, not ours. Thank you for our time.
Jennifer Johnson.
Hi, and thank you for having me again. If y'all will remember, I spoke in March, April, and May. I think Mr. Wilson's the only one that I haven't addressed myself to. I'm Dr. Jennifer Johnson. I'm a board-certified psychiatrist in both adult and adolescent and child psychiatry. And I spoke the first 3 times very briefly, because I only have 3 minutes, on the lack of data supporting the use of masks in spreading COVID-19, especially in children. And then I also talked about the escalating psychiatric complications related to COVID-19, mostly the social isolation and financial fallout from it that was causing a significant increase in mental health referrals. I'm really here today to give positive feedback because that is really the best reinforcer that we have known to us. And I want to be very clear that I'm very satisfied this year. I asked my children how they felt about returning to school this year, and their quote was, "It is 100% better than last year." And that's saying a lot. I appreciate y'all adhering to the Texas governor's mandate about not wasting our tax dollars on legal fees fighting the Attorney General. Our school dollars, y'all know, are far better spent on students and education, and so I also want to thank you about this. The choice that you have given parents on both sides, it's just appropriate, and it's the right thing to do for our children and families. Other than some, not not so subtle coercion by bus drivers offering children masks when they are boarding the bus, and administrators encouraging mask use at school over the intercom during morning announcements. I'm really pleased with the first 6 weeks of school. I've taken that opportunity to teach my children how to stand up for themselves, their beliefs, and not be coerced by people in authority if they're really not wrong and if they really are given a choice. So thank you. I wanted you to hear from a very satisfied parent who I think my children are very good consumers at your school. So I'm going to switch to a different note very quickly that highlights some positive things regarding the giving credit to the quarantine remote conferencing process headed by Dr. Hilge. It's very user-friendly, very efficient. I needed to quarantine my children this year, and so I called the front office at BHS, and the staff was exceedingly informative and helpful. I was transferred to a substitute school nurse, Catherine Brumley, who was so well informed. It was like she'd been there for years. And she notified Dr. Hilge immediately of my need to get my children enrolled in the remote conferences, and she even followed up with me later in the day to see if I'd received a response, which I thought was exceedingly personal customer satisfaction. Dr. Hilge responded to this request within 1 day. She responded at almost midnight of that day, and so she is up late working well past her hours, or it's an automated response, but whatever, it was quick. And Ms. Humphreys was amazing at Voss Middle School as well. Thank you.
Thank you. I think we have time. We have one more individual on our list I think we have time for is Crystal Neitzel. Crystal?
Hello, good evening. Thank you for letting me have the opportunity to speak. As we know, there's a significant increase in COVID's numbers, and especially in pediatric COVID infections and hospitalizations. The current Delta variant is much more transmissible and contagious. But without mask mandates in Bernie ISD, I feel like I'm sending my kids to a landmine every day. Bernie ISD has inconsistent safety protocols. Some schools had grandparents' day, while other schools did not, due for safety reasons. Plexiglass is offered in some schools where it's not visible in others, for example, cafeterias, classrooms. Disinfecting is not happening in between classes. Teachers are not wiping down, or the students are not do not have disinfectant available for them to use. Bernie ISD is perceived to only be concerned with attendance funding and STAR scores rather than the health and safety of our children. If you don't have the safety, the health of them, you're not going to get the educational part that's the foundational block. I personally know that my children are worth more than the price tag of the attendance funding you pin on them each day. Why isn't Bernie ISD following science and advice from experts? You teach science in the schools and you test for it. So why aren't you following it? It seems very hypocritical. You know, some may say no mask are their right, but it is also my child's right to learn in a safe environment, and BISD is not providing that, and it's negligent. I'm requesting for BISD to mandate masks and attempt to care for their students' safety, at least until vaccinations are widely available for all school-aged children and COVID numbers go down. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. I want to thank everyone for your comments. Up next is our consent agenda. Board, does anybody have a motion to approve our consent agenda? I have a motion. I have a second. Any further discussion? Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor of the motion, please say aye. Opposed, please say nay. Motion passes 7-0. Okay. That brings us to governance. Did you want to, board members, we'll go through, let's start with our legislative report. Mr. Senna and Ms. Jessica Davila Burnett, do you have some information to share with us this evening?
Yes, Madam President. The educated-related bills that passed the legislature and were signed into law by the governor mostly occurred in the second special legislative session. The first one really got nothing done because they didn't have a quorum. But in the second legislative session, there passed financing for what's called the 13-month. The 13th month is an extra month of funding for retired teachers on the TRS system who will get an extra check this year. TRS system doesn't allow for annual cost of living adjustments, but every once in a while when the state has extra money, they'll kick in a 13th month. So that is going forth because the state was in much better shape financially towards the end of its 2-year biennial budget than it was at the beginning of the budget, biennial budget. So there were 2 other bills that passed, House Bill 15 and House Bill 4545, but Ms. Flores is going to really be discussing those and its impact on us in her presentation. So I'll pass information on that for now because she'll go over it. In the third legislative session, redistricting that's always a lot of fun every 10 years, so that'll get nasty, I'm sure. And then there's Senate Bill 1, because there's a expected $2 to $4 billion surplus in the budget of the biennial budget year. The Senate Finance Committee passed today on a 14-0 vote allocating that money to a 1-year reduction in the maintenance and operation tax rate in school districts. That would amount to 5 or 6 cents, which is nice for 1 year, but then it goes away because it's not a sustainable tax reduction. For those in the audience, you'll hear later tonight, our CFO, Mr. Scott's going to propose, our tax rates for next year, where you'll see that the maintenance and operation tax rate will have been declined just under 16 cents per hundred of assessed valuation over the past 3 years. That is sustainable tax rate reduction, unlike this. But hey, enjoy it while it lasts. So we don't know if that's going to pass the House or if the governor will sign it. Time will tell. So that's what's up for legislative update regarding education issues.
Thank you. All right, so Finance Committee, Carlin, and get Mr. Fryer and Mr. Wilson.
Yeah, so the Finance Committee met on September 15th. As Rich alluded to, we discussed the proposed tax rate, moving the M&O rate to 88.06 cents and the INS rate to 0.324 cents, or 32.4 cents, for a total of $1.2046 for the tax rate. We also discussed the auditors making some prior period adjustments, and that was mostly due to just the change in audit firms that we were using and the way that they accounted for some different items there. We also talked about the memorandum of understanding for the Bernie Band Booster Club trailer, and that the district would be responsible for providing the tractor for that and a driver and maintenance and upkeep for it. And our next meeting is scheduled for October 6th.
Thank you. Is that all? So we have a committee that was previously known as our 504 Special Education Advisory Committee. I understand now it's called the Whole Child Committee. What can you tell me about that, Mr. Fryer and Ms. Davila Burnett?
Meeting scheduled for tomorrow, 1.5 2-hour meeting scheduled as a committee.
Okay, very good. Technology Committee, Dr. Tidwell.
Yeah, just 2 things to point out. One, getting ready and looking at long-term planning. The district is, particularly with the bond, just one point on that. For example, our network infrastructure at all our legacy campuses is about 6 years old, Patty. Typically the life cycle on that's 5 to 7. So really we have quite a number of campuses where that'll be life cycling out. The other thing that I think is pretty neat is we've received a whole lot of technology equipment over the last year, particularly with COVID and people donating things. And so the program, what's the name of the program we have set up that we had the 17 staff members? There we go. To be able to They applied for, got in, be able to use some of this, make sure it doesn't sit in carts or in closets, and take advantage of all this wonderful stuff that we've either procured or has been donated over the past couple of years. So that's it.
Ms. Gonzalez Cooper, what about Bernie Education Foundation?
Let's see. There we go. Okay. We had our very first Topgolf event, which was called Birdies for Bernie, and it was a huge success. We had 14 different companies that are actually companies that work with us. They are anywhere from the architects, engineers. We had, what else do we have out there? We had the construction crews. Anyway, we had a lot of different companies come out, and it was just a huge success. It was a lot of fun, and I can't wait to hear how much money we raised from that event. A huge thank you to Yvette Reyna for her expertise in putting the event together and kind of getting all of these people to support our district. What's wonderful about these events is that, of course, every single bit of donation that comes into the Bernie Education Foundation goes back to our teachers and to our children. So just a huge thank you to all those companies. You know, we appreciate them, and we know it's going to be even bigger and better next year. So that's about it. It was a huge success, and I know that Stan had a lot of fun out there. He was on a couple of different teams, running back and forth. Mr. Senna's team took first place, but I want to say that I think he paid the pro to kind of score some high points for him.
Well, now let's explain. We did what any good organization does when you're struggling. You do a mid-course correction. We were really bad. But then Yvette comes by and says, hey, if you kick in X amount of dollars, the pro gets 3 shots for you. And he was doing great. So we just kept spending it. You know, it's all for the kids. The money's all for the kids.
Yes,
and
thank you.
Jeff Rodriguez was our leader, right, Jeff? Yes, he was our. It was great.
So thank you, Yvette. Great job. Excellent, really. It was a wonderful event. So thank y'all. And if y'all can make it next year, we'd love to have you.
Thank you very much. Congratulations on that fundraiser, another new one, so that's great. Instructional programs, do we have a committee meeting on that? Probably not, okay. That's right, that's right. And then, okay, facilities, Marita, Rich, you have some information to share on that? Or? Okay. All right, communication team.
I love this committee. It's a new committee. Thank you, Dr. Price. We've already met again. Dr. Stewart, Mr. Brian Benway. We're just taking an approach, getting feedback. We have other community members on this committee. We're taking feedback from all the parents representing the different schools. And so last time I talked about how we corrected and just got on a cadence with the emails coming out from the different campuses. And this time we are working on making the website, and I know Brian was showing me the changes already today, worked on it last week, just to make our website a little more user-friendly within our ability, because it is through Blackboard, so we don't necessarily get to do our website. There's limitations going through Blackboard, but working on efficiencies and just making it more user-friendly and allowing people to access what they need quickly.
Thank you. And Mr. Senna, what can you tell us about the Transportation Committee?
Okay, we had the Bernie, Kendall County, Fair Oaks Ranch Transportation Committee had its latest meeting this afternoon. It's been meeting for many, many months now with an idea, and the purpose of the committee is to identify solutions to traffic woes that plague our community. The last time there was a major initiative was when TxDOT came in and wanted to kind of impose a statewide solution on local transportation needs. So this committee is a citizens committee designed to finding local solutions to local traffic problems. And so far, what the committee has come up with, it's building its recommendation list. A lot of things that were in the city of Bernie's thoroughfare plan, which are frankly to be paid for by developers and the city. in new areas, new subdivisions. So a lot of things in the thoroughfare plan. Also, we're looking at ways to improve crowded intersections in the community whereby certain roads may have tremendous capacity, but very, very crowded intersections reduce that capacity greatly. So there's going to be recommendations of how to improve that, which the feeling is that would increase the capacity of those roads and be a much cheaper way than simply building additional roads, although that invariably will be a part of the recommendation. It is interesting to note that a two-lane road, every mile of a two-lane road is about $5 million. So imagine the cost of having to build what TxDOT wanted to build, which was the gateway around Bernie, would be well into the hundreds of millions of dollars. So we have to look at dollars and cents. How much can local community afford? What kind of revenue we can get from TxDOT, from AMPO, which is the Metropolitan Area Transportation Board that gives grant money, of which they have decided that widening Old San Antonio Road right by our middle school south and by Kendall, and also Cascade Caverns to just improve transportation in that area. That has been approved by AMPO, which I don't know what the timeline for that to start is. It could be 4 or 5 years down the road, but basically the local communities will pick up maybe 10% of the cost, with the rest being picked up by the state and the feds. So that's the latest update for what we have right now.
Thank you very much. Any other comments or questions, board? Okay, next we're going to go into reports. Dr. Price?
All right. Week 7, it's hard to believe we're already there. We are now enrolled 10,285 students. We continue to grow. I still think when we do snapshot, we'll be close to 10,300. That's important because this is also a year for realignment in our sports, and Stan can give you more detail on that, but don't be surprised if Bernie is going to ends up being 5A this. So we have it under control, don't we, Coach? We will make sure. Yeah. Okay. The good news, though, also is we hit 94% attendance this past week. We did hit a severe dip, but the 94% attendance is, and I speak weekly with all the superintendents in the San Antonio area, one of the best, if not the highest, in the San Antonio area. That's school districts with and without masks. So I think we're doing pretty good. Most of you, well, all of you attended the homecoming parade. Some of the best floats I've ever seen in all the parades. A lot of people up and down the sideways. We don't need me there, okay? Up and down the sidewalks, and just excited about normalcy and coming back. And I think it was one of the most attended pep rallies afterwards, where we burned the sea. It was a lot of enthusiasm. The student advisory, and you got to meet them this tonight, and we met this week. I think it was this week, maybe last week. It's all blurring together, but they are a remarkable group of people. We gave them the same presentation about long-range planning and what we're going into it, and they asked some of the best questions that I've gotten in many, many years about what this means for them, what this means for the future, and it wasn't all about their program, because one of the things we didn't explain real well, each of those representatives are representing a club or a group of people. So you may have somebody there that's representing the German club, someone there representing speech, band. So we have a wide variety of student, and one of the things that we wanted to do with them is give them the opportunity. We talk about a lot of times leadership and leadership skills, but this is the opportunity to put that in practice. And one of the things we did that day is we had them introduce themselves, talk about themselves, why they were there, who they were representing, and for some of them it was hard. It was you're there with your peers and they're having to learn to talk about themselves, and that's one of the biggest skills that I know whenever I interview people that they don't have the capability of doing, is talking about themselves in that little 3-minute speech. So we're really giving them that opportunity to practice. They're going to go out, they're not going to do their own surveys, but they're going to go out and talk to their clubs about the things that we discuss, come back and report out. We're also going to be using them to talk about SFE, that's our food service. And remember, we adopted our food service going into COVID, and so it was a real difficult first year because we don't know what to compare it to. And this year, it's going to be hard to compare because we're giving away free because of the grant. But what we really want, and remember, this is the group it started with. When we started considering going out for food services, we had different food services come in and talk to this group and get their opinion, and we based some of what we decided on what they were looking for. And their input's very important to us. So I'm real proud of that group, and we have some remarkable leaders that are going to be watching over us. Last bit of information I want to share. It's not a real good bit of information. Hold Harmless, we talked about that all last year, and that's in the attendance, and we kept hearing about it, and it was supposed to make sure that we did not lose any funding. And we reported that the formula kept changing weekly sometimes, and sometimes daily recently. And at the last time we ran the formula through, we were going to be back in recapture for $2.1 million. So Hold Harmless did not hold us harmless, which means that we're going to have to take more out of our fund balance than what we anticipated. But we think, and I know we've gotten some flack about celebrating 10,000 students. We celebrate 10,000 students. To me, it's kind of like celebrating your 50th birthday. You know what? You can ignore it, but it's going to happen, so you might as well celebrate it. And the alternative is not good. Same thing if we don't plan for our 10,000 students, then the alternative is not real good because we won't be able to meet their needs. Since we celebrated that 10,000, we've jumped up 285 students. And that's just very quickly, because we didn't think that was the second week of school. We're 800 over what we had last year. The good part about this is we will not be in recapture this year. And that's a first time for us not being in recapture, sending our money back to Austin, not back to Austin, in over 12 years. And all the money, if you add that up, we have given our money to Austin over $110 million. So this will allow us to meet the needs of our students as we go forward, and that is something to celebrate. And as we look at the long-range plan, if we don't understand our numbers and we don't know where we're going, it's kind of hard to go out and ask somebody for a bond election if we are not growing. So I think it's a good celebration. And I've got a couple more things, but I will wait till after Larissa finishes her comments or her presentation on 4545 and remote conferencing.
And with that, Ms. Flores, would you like to come up to the podium?
Good evening, Madam President, members of the board, and Dr. Price. Tonight I'm going to be presenting some updates and some information regarding remote conferencing and House Bill 4545. Of course, this information I'll be sharing with you ties directly to our scorecard and our goals under student success. So let's start first with what is remote conferencing. On August the 5th, Commissioner Morath communicated to all districts that remote conferencing would be an option for this school year as a mechanism by which remote instructional support could be provided. But there was some limitations. So to start, remote conferencing is intended for students with a temporary medical condition documented by a physician. For example, a student with a positive COVID-19 test result, or those identified as being in close contact with COVID-19 who opt to voluntarily quarantine. There is a time limit. There's only 20 school days per school year that a student is allowed to remote conference. Remote conferencing is not the same as e-learning or as virtual learning as our community was accustomed to last year. It's very, very different. There are synchronous instructional support minutes that are required by the state. 4 hours for a secondary student, grades 6 through 12, and 2 hours for elementary, pre-K through 5. So those are the requirements for remote conferencing. This graph shows our enrollment as of last Friday, September the 17th, with the number of students served by grade band and the average percentage of attendance. You will see that there's a slightly higher percentage rate at the secondary level. There were no additional funds given to LEAs for remote conferencing, so based on the personnel, the training, and the technology required for our remote conferencing teachers to be able to provide this program, our estimated cost for this school year is approximately around $200,000. Yes, sir.
You said, what, August 5th?
Yes, sir. August 5th was when we were notified from Commissioner Morath.
We started school
August 11th.
Most school districts have not even implemented this at this point in time. It's the same thing we did last year, well, whenever we shut down the first time. We turned it around very, very quickly, and there was some rocks, some bumps in it. And I think the teaching and learning department has done an excellent job of smoothing it out. It's much better now than it was when it started 7 weeks ago. And we could have done what a lot of other school districts did. Like I said, I know they've come to visit you about how we're doing it.
Yes, sir.
Surrounding school districts, big school districts, much bigger than us, have come to see. And but what we felt like is we'd rather put out something that was rough and our students wouldn't lose track than to wait 8-9 weeks to do it. So I commend them. It's gotten better and better. Same thing with notifications and how we're going to do it. I apologize if we stumbled, but we felt like we put out the best product we could at the time to meet the needs of our students. And I would try to do it differently, but I wouldn't make the decision to delay it because look at all the students that were served. And I think it's going to get better and better. As I said, we, at this point in time, are the role model. They are coming to us, the bigger districts, and asking how we're doing it. And we're also able to tell them the mistakes we made along the way. So thank you for doing that.
Just a quick question. The students that attend, are they considered, does that count for ADA or no?
Yes.
It does. Okay.
And I will say, because of the very quick turnaround, the teaching and learning coordinators were the actual teachers for remote conferencing for the first week of school. So they did a fantastic job.
Ms. Flores, I'm sure you've seen growth in the number of people participating from the beginning when you introduced it, and then the word probably got out and the communications improved. And I imagine there's growth of people participating more so now than in the very beginning. Even though you gave us
yes, sir. Yes, ma'am.
Yeah. Okay.
Yes, especially at the secondary level. Yes.
Yeah, I think the numbers that she showed are skewed because of the first couple of
right.
weeks.
That's what I guess I'm trying to say. But I would assume.
And I think the biggest misconception, and she touched on it, was what it is and what people think it is. And this is truly a study hall type atmosphere to keep students engaged when they can. But the reality, if you're out with COVID, you may not feel like doing it. And so we have to be understanding, and our teachers are. This is just giving them a head start because a lot of times they heal before they can come back, and it gives them a chance to participate and keep up with their classmates.
And it also doesn't count as an absence because my daughter participated in remote conferencing because of me. And so she was quarantined because of me. So that was great. And it was we took it just as it was intended. And I think the biggest peace of mind was that the communication back with her teacher, she was out of remote conferencing, so if she was able to make up some things that were in class, but she was not counted absent.
Because one of the things that the state has not given us a break on are the students is the 90% rule. that's been in place for 15 years. And that's if a student is not present 90% of the time, they cannot receive credit for that class. And so they're not letting us waive that. This is what they're pointing to is this is the opportunity for those students to their absences not to count. If not, they have to go through the attendance committee, and the attendance committee basically you have to make up seat time, and that's a rule of the state.
I just wanted to say I very much appreciate Dr. Price, you mentioning there's a number of reasons students might be in this. One, they get exposed, and so that they just have to stay home even if they don't want to. But the other is when they are sick, and I appreciate you emphasizing this isn't an opportunity to make sure, no matter how bad you feel, that you can be in class. That's not the purpose, and I think if we can keep that focus as well. Some folks, whether it's COVID or anything else, sometimes you're sick and you need to not be doing schoolwork. So.
Okay, so now I'm going to transition to House Bill 4545, Accelerated Instruction. In June, the 87th legislature set new requirements on grade level promotion and acceleration. The first section of the law was that students were no longer going to be required to be retained in grades 5 and 8 if they failed the STAR in reading and math. Instead, they created learning acceleration, which requires additional supports for all students that did not pass the STAR. And it also requires the creation of accelerated learning committees for students in grades 3, 5, and 8 that failed the STAR reading and or math. House Bill 4545 gave LEAs two options to meet the accelerated learning requirements. The first option was to assign those students that failed to a master, exemplary, or recognized teacher for the following school year. Teachers earn these designations through an approved teacher incentive allotment grant designation system. BISD currently does not offer this system. So option 2, which is how most LEAs will satisfy House Bill 4545, is to offer 30 hours of supplemental instruction to each child for each test that is failed. Accelerated learning committees are required for each student that failed the grade 3, 5, and 8 reading and or math STAR. The committee must consist of the principal or the designee, the parent, and the teacher of the failed subject test. Together, the committee creates an educational plan for the student to ensure success on the next year's test, which also includes the 30 hours of supplemental instruction. There are 9 requirements for the supplemental instruction, which is above and beyond the current grade level coursework. I'd just like to highlight a couple of them. There is, again, a minimum of 30 hours of tutoring for each subject failed. So if a student failed 2 tests, then that's 60 hours required. It must be provided in a 3-to-1 ratio to student to teacher or tutor, unless that is waived by the parent. Students cannot be pulled from the foundation curriculum, which includes reading, math, science, or social studies, nor can they be pulled from the enrichment curriculum, which is languages other than English, fine arts, CTE, health PE, or tech apps. And they also cannot be pulled from recess or PE. I will get to that, Ms. Cooper. So our principals have been very creative. I will tell you that. So TEA created a recommended timeline for implementation of House Bill 4545. They have given LEAs in the state a lot of grace because it was kind of thrust upon us in June, and of course we started school in August. So according to their recommended timeline, we are right on target. Every school has either completed or is near completion of all of their ALC meetings. Consent forms have been given to parents, and accelerated instruction is scheduled to begin by the end of the month. One thing we did have to do as well was to administer a beginning of year assessment to all students that were absent from the spring STAR testing. So we had to do that. We did that in the first week, August 30th through the 10th. And there we were able to determine those students if they needed accelerated instruction. So once student lists were finalized, parents were invited to ALC meetings, and consent forms were sent to waive the 3-to-1 ratio. Our internal deadlines were as follows. ALCs were to be completed by September the 30th, so there are a couple of schools still having those meetings, and accelerated instruction, again, will begin by the end of the month. I will note that the teaching and learning coordinators were tasked with creating the tutoring, the high-quality instructional material that the teachers and tutors will be using for each subject area and grade level. I do want to take a note and just say that this is supplemental instruction, and sometimes it gets confused with remediation. And acceleration is not remediation. Accelerated learning keeps students moving forward because these students will have to take a test at the end of the year on their grade level. So we need to be, that the materials that are created are very strategic and that they are keeping the students on the right path, but also filling in those gaps that they missed from the year before. So it's acceleration, not remediation. So how are campuses scheduling this time? At the elementary, they're using focused intervention time, which is their intervention periods throughout the day. It's about 40 minutes at each campus. They're using that time and or after school. At our middle schools, they are using study hall that ranges anywhere between 30 to 45 minutes. Their students can participate and or after school. Our high schools, the only option they have is really after school and or Saturdays for some campuses. The estimated cost for House Bill 4545 is noted in this chart. We had a total of 2,726 tests, not students, tests that were failed from the spring. So if you take that number and you calculate it by teacher to ratio of 3-to-1, at that rate, we're looking at close to $783,000 for the year to implement House Bill 4545.
It's unfunded mandate.
Yes, sir, unfunded.
So the legislature passed House Bill 4545 with no additional funding to local school districts.
No, sir.
Okay. So the assumption, I'm assuming, is that they would expect school districts to use the federal ESSER money for that.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
And in your test failed number, does that also include the e-learners that didn't have to take the test?
So then we tested them at the beginning of year testing, and so that number is not reflective. So that number is actually higher.
This is not temporary, correct? This is going to be ongoing. So
This is not temporary, ma'am. There's already plans for 2022 and beyond.
So this is unfunded, will continue even after ESSER funds are all gone. But this also slides into the question about virtual instruction. And after talking to the principals, looking at our data, what you were pointing out, Donna, is a lot of those tests are virtual learners. And that is something that that districts across the state have seen, that virtual instruction is just not as good as in-person instruction. So at this point in time, we just cannot recommend doing the virtual Senate Bill 15. That bill does not give us any new funding. What we've seen, the kids that were in virtual and homeschooled have come back to us in droves. We're record numbers, but they are about a year behind. And if you go to each of the campuses that I've visited, those are the ones that were working hard, and I think we can catch them up. But it is there's a reason. A lot of times we notice that they made good scores virtually, but whenever they were home, they were getting help that they would not get, and help in the wrong way. Sometimes it's easier to give an answer than to help somebody discover an answer. And our teachers are experts at it. So after talking, looking at data, we just cannot recommend it. The cost to doing it would be an additional about $2 million. Remember when we did the virtual last year, we had 45 extra teachers because we didn't have the enrollment that we thought we would have. So we had those 45 teachers. Those 45 teachers are now in classrooms. So to start a virtual school We need time, because last year when we did this, we took all summer preparing, and still we had some bumps as we did it. And then we would need teachers. And right now we're having a hard time. There's a crisis in the country finding hourly employees, whether it's bus drivers, and we'll talk about that soon, cafeteria workers, but also teachers. We've never had a problem finding teachers before, and now we can find warm bodies, but we have a standard here where we want the best teachers in the classrooms with our kids. So that is another factor in doing this. The other thing that really got our attention is last year we have kids with special needs, 504, special ed, our EL kids, and through virtual, what we found, we could not serve those children the way we felt like we should to our standard. And we do not want to repeat that history. There are other avenues that people can, if they feel like that there's virtual, that's what they need, that we will help them. There's some charters out there, but we feel like we have to do what we do best as we go forward. And what we do best is in-class instruction, and we said that multiple times last year as we went through. That's about it.
I enjoyed visiting one of our elementary campuses today. And I learned and observed a lot of learning going on, and it's exciting. And we had some children wearing masks, many not, but they were all engaged in learning. And what I learned in some discussion is not only do we have the academic gaps that we're seeing, that we're putting programs in place to help shorten those gaps, but there were developmental motor skills gaps that were being noticed, the handwriting skills, the development of the hands and doing that at the elementary level. Those have been seen, as well as the social skills. So there are reasons for our children to be in school learning.
Absolutely.
You were going to say something, Dr. Tidwell?
No, I just wanted to commend you and your staff and the principals, and I think, House Bill 4545 is a very imperfect solution to a very real problem, but it's an insane solution. And things like this, I think a lot of folks, including us, always think there's really simple ways to do things and don't understand the impact it has on the people actually having to do it. So for this one, you may have missed, typically the ratio on this is 3-to-1, correct? 3 students to 1 instructor. That can be waived, but who wants to have more kids, have the teacher of your child have more kids to deal with? So generally that's going to be 3-to-1. You look at that 30 hours per subject, and there's a lot of meetings and things that have to take place beforehand. You're looking probably at a minimum of 5 to 6 hours of prep time for our staff just to get ready for that. That ends up being, with that and then the time teaching, an additional 40 to 50,000 man hours. Aren't funded, aren't planned for, and nobody thought they were going to have to do. And what I was really impressed with, from everyone I've seen and talked with about it, like nobody's complained about that at all. They're like, okay, well, what are we going to do? They haven't complained to me about it. But I just very much appreciate, hey, it is kind of the attitude of it is what it is, what are we going to do to get it done, and also how are we going to not just check a box, but actually meet the intent of this very imperfect solution, which is to catch kids up because they are behind. And just to reinforce what you said, and you've shared some of this data with us, this isn't anecdotal data across the state or for our district. You can please tell me if I'm exaggerating here, generally you could pick out who was virtual learning versus in-student by looking at their performance year on year and not even knowing whether they were in the classroom or not. It is very, very clear that the virtual learning isn't helping us. So anyway, just want to commend you all and also just point out this is huge, like hard to describe how huge amount of work that all of our staff and teachers and parents and students are going to have to be doing this year. So I'll stop my rant.
Couple of questions. The 2,700 hours, is that going to be, you mentioned the interventionists are coming up with the class material, the tutoring material. Who's going to be doing that? Is that our teachers or some retirees?
So there's a mix of internal applicants, internal staff, teachers, paraprofessionals. There's also external outside tutors that some campuses are looking to hire and have posted the positions for those.
And also making sure I remember correctly, before that even starts, every student has an individualized plan.
Yes, every student in grades 3, 5, and 8 that failed reading and math must have a committee with the principal, the parent, and they have to have a documented plan, which includes the 30 hours. Any other student, any other grade level or subject just must receive the 30 hours.
Larissa, can you tell me, I'm sorry, about how many kids this 2,700 tests are? Roughly how many kids
It really depends. It's close to 8 to 900 for the district.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, so, if you go back to spring of 20, school basically stopped in March.
Correct.
After spring break. And then we had, some kids did virtual all last year. So I'm thinking those kids that are in second grade now, they would have missed a couple of months in kindergarten. And if they went virtual last year during first grade, are we seeing trends from our second graders?
So the progress monitoring data is just being completed this month. And so next month I will be presenting on that.
So you'll be able to tell us whether there's a specific problem at that grade level. Okay. So, just some thoughts. I'll back up what Joe said. Every district does things differently. I've talked to folks in the community that wonder, why we're not doing what Austin's doing. And that's because Austin is, I'll take a step back. We got $6 million in ESSER money for 3 years. And Austin, despite the fact that they're only 7 times our size in enrollment, got 42 times the federal aid. 7 times our size, 42 times. And it's based on economically disadvantaged percentages, and I understand that. But they decided to spend a boatload of money on virtual, which will only allocate to 5% of their kids. And what I see in your presentation here is a good faith effort to catch our students up. And knowing, I guess I would question, and I'm not on the Austin School Board, so I probably shouldn't be worried about them, but it bothers me when kids don't get an education, why you would spend hard-earned taxpayer money on something that doesn't work, when if we had taken that approach in Bernie ISD, based on what Dr. Price shared about the cost of virtual, our ESSER money would be gone by February or March. And instead, we're using it to catch kids up. So
Absolutely.
Thank you for that. I think that's common sense. So thank you.
Yeah, Ms. Flores, just a quick question. As far as, do you have any references for these types of programs where you're not necessarily trying to remediate the education of children, or where they've kind of fallen behind, but you're trying to accelerate it? We don't necessarily have any data yet that's going to show whether this is effective or not, but what's your take on, have we done something like this before? And, do high school kids coming in on Saturdays and after school and getting 3-to-1 ratio tutoring, that sort of thing, how effective has that been in the past?
So accelerated instruction is not new. It's always been in statute, especially for 8th graders going on to high school. And so we've had admin regs in on our books as far as 8th graders failing must take certain courses in the high school. So accelerated instruction is not new, but at this magnitude, it is. And the requirements and the ratios and all of the requirements, those are new. Yes.
If they'd just done what they've done in the past, where we had to accelerate, I think we could handle that, and we were going to. Our plan was to, we knew there was a gap, we were going to catch our children up. But to say that every child will get 30 hours a week, that's new, and that's hard. That's one size fits all. And even though, like Joe said, we're trying to target each student, it doesn't allow us, if Joe catches up after the first month, we should be able to pull Joe out. But Joe is going to be in there the rest of the year, 30 hours, whether he needs it or not, based on the law. It's no flexibility.
Any other questions?
Just one other comment. I think among some in the community, there may be a misunderstanding of what House Bill 15 brought. It was not additional money to public schools by allowing for virtual. It said, hey, you just get average daily attendance, the money for virtual as opposed to in person. And that's what Austin is doing. So you're just taking money from one pot and putting it into another. And I think the approach, what I'm hearing we're doing is let's focus on educating our kids to the maximum extent so they can catch up and prosper for the long haul.
We are doing what we feel like is educationally sound and based on the data, recommending that the students have in-person learning so that that person is an expert in their area, can immediately help them along the way. You're correct. All Senate Bill 15 does is allow you to redistribute the money, and we could do it, but that means that we would have to take all of our master schedules and redo them. The kids that are currently in class would have to be affected. It would also mean that we'd have to redo all our elementary classrooms and pool and redistribute children, and we just don't believe that's educationally sound. We had to do that last year, and we've all talked about our social emotional. The students bond very quickly with their teacher, and continuously moving them from classroom to classroom at a young age is just not educationally the best practice. So we're going to stick to what we think we know best.
It seems to me that these programs work contrary to one another. We know that there's the COVID slide, the regression that happened. That's the reason we're doing accelerated instruction, but then they want to put kids back into e-learning, which makes no sense. It created the problem to begin with.
Well, and the e-learning, like as I mentioned earlier, we meet in the whole San Antonio area with the superintendents, and not many are going into the new Senate Bill 15.
Okay, so now I'd like to introduce Ms. Cindy Bills. She's our Advanced Academics Director, and she'll be presenting to you on our SAT and Gifted and Talented program.
Good evening, Madam President and Board of Trustees, and Dr. Price. So this evening, I'll be focusing on our SAT suite of testing, as well as dual credit and some gifted and talented services. And those all directly align to our district scoreboard in the area of student success, preparing our students to be college, career, and military ready. So when we look at our PSAT and SAT suite of assessments that we give our students each year, they are aligned. And if you see in that chart, we begin with our 8th graders giving the PSAT 8-9, and I'll give you those dates in just a minute. And then we give the PSAT, the NMSQT. We do not currently give the PSA 10 to our students. And then the SAT to our 11th graders. And so the scoring directly aligns. So if a student scores, let's say they score a 600 on the PSAT 8, that would directly align that when they take the SAT as an 11th grader, they would score that on the SAT. Gives you a future looking score there. So they're aligned. Our suite of assessments will be given to our 8th graders. We'll give the PSAT 8-9 in January 19th. Our PSAT will be given to our 10th and 11th graders October 26th. And then our SAT will be given to our 11th graders on March the 2nd. The benefits of our students taking this suite of assessments in the PSAT is that they're aligned to the SAT, of course. Increased access to scholarship providers, increased access to AP and dual credit enrollment courses, admission and financial aid information from colleges, and majors in career exploration with College Board and Road Trip Nation. So when the students take their first assessment in the 8th grade, they have access to the College Board platform where they're able to go in and work on Khan Academy. They're able to do some surveys in there and learn about what their interests might be in colleges, and they do college searches and all sorts of things in there. It sets benchmarks for them for college readiness, so it helps us as the educators to be able to look and see where the students may have some gaps in learning or where they may be excelling, and where we can help to enrich their learning there. Helps identify students likely to succeed in AP and dual enrollment courses. So when they take the assessment in the platform, it will give them an idea of what AP courses they might be successful in. Delivers data in an online reporting portal that can be readily used to inform instruction. So our teachers use the data. Our coordinators look at the data and they disaggregate it and give it to our teachers to help them to help the students be successful. And of course, it provides flexibility in scheduling test dates. So this year, SAT or College Board gave us the opportunity, some flexibility with our PSAT test like we did last year. We gave it on 3 different dates. However, we are out of school on one of those dates, so our choice was October 26th. The skills tested, of course, there's a reading test, a language test, and a math test. Each test assesses the academic skills that students have developed over the years, and these are considered essential skills to be successful in high school, college, and career. And why does this matter to us? So with HB3, college, career, and military readiness, it furthers the state's 60 by 30 goal, where at least 60% of all adults aged 25 to 34 in Texas achieve a post-secondary degree or workforce credential by 2030. Contributes to the district's CCMR indicator under the state's accountability system, and incentivize, they allow districts to earn additional funds for preparing graduates for CCMR. So all of our SAT scores are reported to TEA, so they pull that data and it contributes to our CCMR goals. What we do to prepare our students, so we offer student support through exams, for these exams, through tutoring in the 8th grade study halls, as well as mini lessons and Saturday tutoring. Our 10th and 11th grade students, we offer Saturday tutoring, as well as Wednesday. We actually have a cohort of about 120 students who started this week with Princeton Review SAT, PSAT prep courses, and they offer those courses to our students at a discounted rate. So these are our scores from the 2021 school year. So as a district for the 8th grade PSAT, you can see we're well above the state and the national scores there. The total group, that is the national scores. So we had an 889 mean score, so that was our average score from our assessment that was in January. Our 10th grade PSAT, the district was at 967, which again is well above the state and the national. And that was in October of 2020. Our 11th grade PSAT, these are not all 11th graders. These are students who chose to take the PSAT for the National Merit Scholarship qualifying. And so we had an average of 1129, and that again is well above the state and national.
So, Cindy, just a question on that. You mentioned was it the 11th grade PSAT, then you've got the 11th grade SAT.
Yes, sir.
Like, what percentage of our kids take these tests, do we know, compared to the state average?
For the 11th grade PSAT, like I said, it's by choice, and that's usually statewide. So I don't have a percentage. I can find out what that percentage is on that.
Because, I mean, it would be interesting to see, you know, some districts may have a lower percentage of kids that take the SATs. So it's good to see state averages. I'm just wondering what it's really telling us.
So when you look at the 11th grade SAT, TEA is helping fund that. So you're going to see the majority of the state of Texas students either taking the ACT or the SAT.
Okay.
And I would say most districts are doing the SAT at this point. So and that is our next one. So this is all 11th graders that took it. We do know that some of our 11th graders did not take it because they were not in person at school and they chose not to come up to the school and take the assessment. But our average there is the 1050, and of course well above the state and national level as well. And that was in last March. So based on those scores, we have several students I'm going to share those numbers with you in just a minute, but College Board has a national recognition program for National African American Group, National Hispanic, the Indigenous, and rural and small town recognition. These students have to have at least a 3.5 or higher GPA, excel on the PSAT, and have a score of 3 or higher on 2 or more AP exams. So as a district, we have several students who fit into those areas. We have 5 there under the National African American Recognition Program, 30 under the National Hispanic Recognition, 2 under the Indigenous Recognition, and then we had 39 under the Rural and Small Town Recognition. And then we also have 2 students in the district that are currently in a competition for the National Merit Finalist Scholarship, so they've been named as semifinalists. They're the highest scoring entrants in each state. Qualifying scores vary from state to state, so I couldn't tell you what those scores are, but they take the top percents there, and they're score extremely high. So we currently have 2 students who are completing their applications at this time, and we will find out in February if they're finalists. Okay, the next part of my report is going to focus on advanced academics, and dual credit is the first one. So this is a 5-year timeline of our dual credit participants and the hours earned. And you'll notice as you look at the chart, we added Angelo State University starting in the summer of 1920. And then we had some students who took online courses during the school year, fall and spring of 20 and 21 through ASU. And then again, we had a large group of students who took during this past summer as well. So our total credit hours earned for the 2021 school year is 3,775 credit hours. This is actually a little bit of a decrease in the number of hours earned from the 1920 school year. We attribute that to, I'll show you in just a minute, we have more students taking AP in some areas. Also, in some instances, it's staffing because we weren't able to offer the course, because if we don't have staff who are qualified to teach those courses and be at adjuncts at Northwest Vista, we cannot offer that course. And that's where our partnership with Angelo State is helping in that area, and so our students can take more of those courses. So when we look at the AP, we had an increase of almost 22%, 21.76% of college hours that would be earned. So approximately, this is at Bernie High School, 705 college credit hours were earned this last school year. And at Champion High School, it was approximately 1,500 college credit hours earned. So that's an increase of almost 26% at 25.9%. And then I have a little bit of a report on our gifted and talented. And this is the definition from TEA on what a gifted and talented student is. It's a child or youth who performs at or shows the potential for performing at a remarkably high level of accomplishment when compared to others of the same age, experience, and environment, and who exhibit high performance capability in an intellectual, creative, or artistic area, possesses an unusual capacity for leadership, or excels in a specific academic field. With that, TEA, as y'all know, a couple years ago, they took away our GT funding. Well, they've given it back to us through House Bill 1525. It amends the state law to create weighted funding for students being served in the Gifted Talented program. The allotment provided for each student up to 5% of the ADA. These funds are in addition to the funds LEAs receive under the basic allotment. So LEAs are required to spend 100% of the GT allotment funds on the GT programs. We are currently servicing 9.23% of our population. 949 students of BISD are currently identified and participate in gifted services, and you can see the breakdown by grade bands there at the bottom. We did implement a new kindergarten identification last school year, which we are continuing this year. All of our kindergartners are eligible for gifted and talented services, and we screen them in December and January. Students who score at specific levels on the norm reference test will be identified for further assessment to determine eligibility for gifted and talented services.
What is a norm reference?
So the one we give is a non-linguistic assessment so that we can capture as many students as possible who may not otherwise be identified. And that's it. Any questions?
You were saying there's over 9% of the kids in the district are identified as GT. Is that subjective to us? Does the state limit us on how many we can identify as GT, or is it just kind of an honor system?
No, we're not limited. They, the general rule is 5 to 8%. The state of Texas is currently at 8%. So we're just above the state, 1.5%. The cap, the money, yes. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yes.
Garrett, about 5 years ago or so, we had about 5%, and we've been steadily, that was something, a goal that we had was to increase that number. So I know that it's been increasing over the years.
One of the things that Cindy's done a really good job of is the norm reference test that she's discussing. Some norm reference tests will penalize poverty and penalize students of EL students. By doing the non-linguistic, it puts people on an even playing field and gives everyone an opportunity. And what we've been able to see is a few years back, you could go into our EL population, and they were definitely underrepresented. This is bringing up that representation so that it's more equitable as we go through.
Any other questions? Thank you.
Madam President, I just have a question. I noticed that in the back of the room we've got our Bernie High School band director and president of the Band Boosters Club, the treasurer. I don't know if they're aware that we've already went through the consent agenda. Hey, if you're here to watch the meeting, that's great. But we already approved the agreement, so.
Are you wanting to know that, or are you just wanting to watch us? Oh. Okay, so next up on our agenda is our operations report. Mr. Acosta?
Yes, Madam President, and Dr. Price, and members of the board. Tonight I bring to you the presentation overview of the operations department. We're going to be concentrating just on maintenance, custodial, and transportation tonight. The other group we'll bring back next month. On the first slide, you'll see our mission, continue to provide quality learning environments in support of student success through pride and craftsmanship and transportation and commitment to customer service while being good stewards of our district resources. Our vision continues to be student success in all areas that we serve. On the next page, you'll see that tonight we'll be explaining who we are, how we operate, review accomplishments from last year, and then our goals for next year. As you can see, we also try to follow, or we do follow, our district scorecard. You can see under student success, we're continuing to disinfect each and every classroom every night. That's every night in our custodial department. This year we took on the responsibility of oversight for our custodial moves. If you remember back when Jim was here, Mr. Martin was here, that was done under that bond project management, right? We have now brought that in-house and we have taken over that oversight. We also started with outdoor furniture, helping our principals in any campus-initiated projects. We're helping out so they don't have to spend their resources on the assembly of those outdoor furnitures. Under customer service, Gil continues to push out the work orders, whether it's HVAC, electrical, plumbing. In transportation, John has added, every time you pick up the phone now and you call, someone answers, so there's complete phone coverage any time of the day. One of the other things is our parents reaching out to us, and if we're going to be late for a route, John immediately puts that out on Blackboard notifications so the parents know exactly what routes are late and how late they're going to be. This year, what we did in our staff development, we provided leadership training for all of the operations divisions, all the supervisors, right, to try to bring them up to speed on customer service. Not only customer service to our outside customers, but to each other, right, and working with each other. Under human capital, with the help of Dr. Howard, we have put a module over at HR, and it's a technician, HR technician. So anybody that walks in the door and is looking for a job, we immediately put them on a kiosk, help them with the application process, and immediately we don't let anybody walking out with first getting that application from that person. So that's a big help. We've increased our web recruiting and just working through all type of social networks to get folks, as you can hear, and Dr. Price has alluded to it earlier, transportation is one of the areas that we're really struggling to find drivers. Some new strategies that John's using and the rest of the folks are using, we're now reaching out to our retirees, right, and trying to promote them and trying to get them back to work for us. Under fiscal responsibilities, you know, last year 2 years ago when COVID hit, Gil took on the responsibility. We made all our own plexiglass, right? When other companies were reaching out to us and offering us plexiglass covers for about $24, $25, we were making ours for $5. So there was a huge savings of over $150,000. I think he made close to 8,000 plexiglass covers, so it's just huge. Any PPE donations that we get, we receive. Sid vets the process, right? The MSDS sheets, what they're made of, but we accept all donations, right? And then we hand that out to all our campuses. Under transportation, I think John has increased the mileage. You're going to see later on in the presentation that he has increased his service routing report by 30% on reimbursement. For the benefit of the new board, I wanted to go ahead and include the organizational chart. You'll see the number of folks that we serve with and the way we're organized and everything. The areas of support, like I said, tonight we're going to concentrate just on maintenance, custodial service, and transportation. Gil Salinas heads up. He's our director of maintenance, and I'm going to call them out here in a second. Sid Lozano is our assistant director of custodial service. He also helps out in our maintenance trades. And then, of course, John Ramirez. And I can't accomplish any of this without recognizing Patricia. Patricia Flores, who's my direct assistant, tells me where to go, where I need to be, and everything. So it's neat. Maintenance facts, you know, Gil works with 29 employees under the maintenance department. He accomplishes about 6,000 work orders a year. That's for all campuses. Right, you know, he maintains over 17 facilities. The square footage that they cover, that they maintain, is a little over 1.8 million square feet. That's indoor. That's you know, conditioned space that he takes care of, and then they take care of mowing 530 acres. And that's an area that we're looking at getting some support from and supplementing some folks there to try to get them some help. Our philosophy in maintenance is pretty simple. It's pretty simple. It's reactive, preventive, and predictive. And we've given you some examples. If we have an AC compressor that's broke, we're going to react to it immediately. That's a priority one. We're going to go out there and we're going to repair it. Under preventive, we find some HVAC coils that are dirty. We're going to go out there and we're going to clean it. And then predictive, after they do the inspection, if they find out that they're needing belts and everything, they're going to go out and they're going to fix it. On how we operate, we categorize this to both maintenance and transportation, and they kind of mirror each other. Both of them fall under the priority system. All priority ones are attended to immediately that same day. Within the same day, they're out there. They've given you some examples of what they consider their maintenance. If it's a water leak and there's no power, we're going to go out there. We're going to have technicians within, 15 minutes. I would. That's safe to say. In transportation, if John gets notice and he needs to evacuate, he's going to start rolling buses out. We immediately get on the communication. Again, if we're missing students from a shuttle run, that's another part of the communication factor that now John has implemented. There's always someone picking up the phone over at the office, and if not, it's rolling over to us right here at our district office, and I'm somewhere in the line. I think after Patricia, and then I'm next. Vehicle repairs, that's the same thing, and you can just see on priority 2s, priority 3s, and then priority 4s, and you can just see the list and stuff. On the custodial service, Sid worked with 75 custodians throughout the district and everything. Our cleaning standard is right at level 2. We're probably pushing about 1.5, and that's kind of an industry standard within school districts. A 1 would be a hospital, and you're going to find that in many of our bathrooms, many of our cafeterias, all our common areas, they're disinfecting every night, and it's probably getting lower. It's getting close to that 1.5. So we're between that 1.5 and that 2. Our staffing formula is pretty common within the state. 1 custodian is responsible for 22,000 square feet. So that's pretty standard, and that's pretty healthy. Under our transportation, you can see where John has listed his full-time drivers and, of course, his temps, his subs, his mechanic shop, and the staff positions that office inside. He's listed his routes. Currently, he's responsible for 44 routes. Under special education, he's got 14 for a total number of 58. They have, of course, morning routes at 5:45, and I know he starts sooner because he starts texting me at 5 in the morning every morning when he's going to drive. So I know he starts sooner than 5:45. The midday routes, this is an area that has increased this year, and you'll see that reflected in his TEA report, his transportation allotment. This is a compliance report that he needs to submit every year. You can see where he's gone up from 765,000 from 1920 prior to him getting here, and then last year it increased to 971,000. That's reimbursement that's going to come directly back to our district. And of course, John's philosophy, it pretty much mirrors our maintenance. It's reactive, it's preventive, and again, it's predictive. If power goes out at a school, John's on the phone, he's going to have to take students home, right? He's in constant contact with campus administrators and what their needs are, right? Under preventive, he services all the vehicles, takes care of all the white fleets within that district. Under predictive, they're always constantly working with the coaches, the campus administrators, to schedule field trips and any other events that are needing support, to include the band trailer. Our goals for improvement going forward. Under the maintenance, we want to start our apprentice program. There's a lot of historical knowledge. We've got some folks that have been in our maintenance department over 30 years. Right, and in order to not lose that historical knowledge, we want to start that apprentice program, so that can be passed on to this apprentice. We're also assembling our age and conditions report for all our major capital equipment. Right, we need to know how old those air conditions are, how long they've been lasting, and also in what type of condition they're in. Right, so we can have good reporting. That way, when we come to a capital needs project or to a bond, we know exactly where our needs are. Under our custodial services, one of the things that we're hoping for in the next year or so is to look for a custodial coordinator to get Sid some help. Not that quality control is not happening, but just it would be an area that would reinforce that. We also want to amp up our custodial training program. And another thing is centralizing our warehouse, our supplies. Right now, I've got 17 different facilities that are ordering custodial. right? And we have checks and balances. I'm not going to say we don't have any checks and balances, but it's more efficient and it streamlines the process when we have a centralized system, right? And then the schools, and we can get material out, we can get custodial supplies out as needed. In transportation, I know John's writing on improving rider verification to make sure that student, your student, is on the bus that it says he is, and it's going to be dropped off where he says he's going to get dropped off. So that's pretty important with parents, right, to see the kids get home. Also improving our bus stop punctuality, right? It's real good. If we're saying we're going to be there at 6:30 in the morning, parents expect us to be there at 6:30 in the morning. So that's something that John is constantly working on. And then real-time tracking of our buses, where we're at exactly at all times of the day, right? And you can see the status there. We've provided on some areas, you know, we've excelled, and we're really pushing. On some other areas, we're still needing to work in order to get where we need to be for goals. The next part is we asked a few customer of ours, right, to just give us a little insight on what their thoughts. It wasn't script. We didn't go to them, but I want to go ahead and show that. Patty.
Hi, I'm Shane Wilson, principal at Bernie High School. I want to brag a little bit about my custodial staff. Ileana Ventura is our head custodian. She does a great job. She's a great leader. We have a clean place to come to work and go to school every day. Anytime we need them, they drop whatever they're doing. They help teachers, they help students. We couldn't be more happier with them. Our Bernie ISD maintenance department, they're always here when we need them. You know, anything from the grounds to getting stuff fixed in our building to had some of them here hanging banners for us yesterday. They walked around with me. Great guys, great attitude. I'd like to give a big shout out to the transportation department. Mr. John Ramirez, I don't know if anybody knows, but we got a trailer donated to our band this year. And Mr. Ramirez has actually been volunteering on his own time to drive that because we're having a hard time finding truck drivers. So real happy to have him on board. We just appreciate all their time and them getting our kids here safely and home safely.
I'm Jamie Robinson. I'd like to share some great positives of our maintenance, custodial staff, and our transportation for Bernie ISD and Middle School South. During our snow apocalypse, when we had everything, all the water lines leaking around the district, things happening, our maintenance staff came out and they took care of everything and against all odds, pieced the schools back together and really helped us get kids back in schools. Our custodial staff during a hard year of COVID has come through and they've taken on a lot more than your typical load, and they've come through and done everything we needed to. Plus, like today, they got ready for Grandparents' Day on top of everything else. Our transportation department has gotten creative with our growing numbers and rerouting. We've had to work with all the routes because of transportation's communication with TxDOT. So everything they do, and even our directors, they're jumping in and driving buses too. So we appreciate everyone.
Hi, I'm Shalene Livas and I'm the principal of Kendall Elementary School. I would like to give a huge shout out to our amazing custodial team led by none other than Mr. James Valderas for the amazing work that they do here, keeping our campus clean, safe, and beautiful for our students. I also want to shout out our BISD maintenance team. They did an amazing job getting our new portables buildings ready for classes. Last but not least, I cannot forget our amazing transportation crew. Our bus drivers rock. They are absolutely the best. They are always so helpful, kind, cheerful, and they get our kids back and forth safely every day. Thank you for all that you do.
Yeah. So, Madam President, you know, I've been around with some experience, and this is probably one of the best outfits. I serve with these guys, right? I mean, I truly do, and I just want to recognize both. If you guys will stand, Gil and John and Sid. Like I said, I can't do anything unless Patricia says, okay, you've got to be here at this time and where to go. That completes our presentation. If there's any questions, I'll take.
Well, I want to say thank you, and I know it's a big job, and you're leading a bunch of teams, and those teams are leading a bunch of teams. I have spoken to a maintenance worker and a bus driver recently. And we talk about how our employees are leaders, all employees, and the way in which these individuals speak about our children literally made me tearful. I mean, they are so happy transporting children, helping guide children. The maintenance individual in particular, he was talking about a student who was having a difficult time, and he engaged with that student, and that student looks for him and runs to him on a daily basis, and that makes that child's day. So it is, I mean, these are very wonderful people on your team. And I just wanted to share that story with two that I have spoken to personally.
Thank you, Madam President.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and to back that up, thank you, Donna. It's the analogy would be like an airplane that has two wings. Now, one wing is the teachers, and the administrators, but then you've got the operations folks. You cannot run a district without your operations folks. You can't fly a plane without not only the pilot, but the maintenance crew. So you've got, it's a job well done. Thank you.
I agree. I think communication has really been good this year, especially recently. I know we've had some challenges with bus drivers and stuff like that. So seeing the emails going out, not always the information parents want to see, but splitting some routes, getting kids, making sure we're getting them home because we're short. Commend you for that. It may not be always what someone wants to hear, but it's better to hear that information from us. And then just a question. With our CTE programs, are we utilizing any of our students in like maintenance and stuff like that from our auto mechanics? And
So it's funny you say that because I just had a conversation with Bill, and I'm getting ready to have one with Shane and see how we can tap into that, right? Especially on some of our skilled trades, right? We're constantly looking for electricians for HVAC, and right now, I mean, we're losing HVAC techs for firms that are offering these guys $35 an hour, upwards. Yeah, so it's something that I'm talking to the high school principals. I'm going to work with Dr. Stewart. I'm going to work with Ms. Flores on that. Thank you.
All right, so now we're going to the actions part of our agenda. And so, Mr. Scott, would you like to come up to the podium?
All about action. Good deal. Good evening, everybody. We're going to talk about August results. Is that where we're at right now? All right. Let's talk about the results of operations through the August 31st year to date. We're 17% through the year so far. I say this a lot, so you'll have to forgive me, but our expectations for those results were within budgeted and other expectations that we had set. There's not much significant that has happened financially in the month of August, but there are two things that I want to point out. One is on the third page of that report is the Child Nutrition Fund. Note that there was $120,000 that was recorded in that month. That's not normal. That's the Texas Department of Agriculture funneling monies through the FDA to school districts for lost revenues in the 2021 year. We're going to recognize those revenues in 21-22, and it certainly doesn't offset the $700,000 loss we took in child nutrition last year, but it helps, and we're thankful for that. Another note on child nutrition is that with the seamless summer option, the indications are that we've earned about $330,000 in meals in the month of August, which makes child nutrition look good. The seamless summer option, or the SSO program, looks like a viable option for us for the 21-22 year. We normally don't record revenues month to month in Child Nutrition Fund on an accrual basis, so you'll see those monies start to come in the September report. The most significant item in the month of August were the donations. We got $167,000 in donations, and we appreciate every single one. But there was an exceptionally significant one. The Bernie Band Boosters donated a custom-built trailer for hauling the band equipment. The cost in that was estimated at $127,000. We have representatives from the Bernie Band Booster Club here tonight, and with the board's permission, I thought I've never seen a booster club give a six-figure donation before. That may happen in Bernie on a regular basis. I hadn't been in a long time, but I've never seen that before. And I thought with the board's permission, we might give them a chance to introduce themselves and tell a little bit about the idea and the effort and the obstacles that they encountered in bringing this tremendous gift to Bernie ISD.
Absolutely. Please come on up. We'd love to hear from you. Thank you for waiting for so long. That's dedication. You've waited through a lot of meeting here.
Education. Purchasing that trailer was dedication.
That's true.
So I'm Shelley Haverlaw. I'm the 2018 to 2020 president of the Bernie High School Band Boosters. I'm still a Bernie High School band mom, and but I'm no longer president. I have a senior this year, so this is my last year with the band. We have Sabrina Allison. She's our current president, and Jennifer Spencer is our current treasurer. So I joined the band 6 years ago as a band parent, and when I come in, I was amazed by the volunteers with the Bernie High School Band Boosters, and everything I heard was, we need to purchase a trailer, purchase a trailer. And I watched the band travel to football games and competitions dragging a U-Haul alongside their current trailer. So the idea that this band program was growing and needed a new trailer was obvious. We had a few setbacks along the way. It was in the media, so we were able to recoup 100% of those funds. There's a lot of details behind that what we can't discuss, but we were able to recoup 100% of that funds. And so as part of that, when we recouped those funds, we met with Ken Peach and Mr. Person and said, this is what the band program, what we want to do for the band program is purchase a trailer. And in those conversations, we talked about the long-term growth expectations of the program. And it was decided that we were going to go for the gusto, and we were going to buy a band trailer that could sustain this program for the growth for many years to come. So this is the trailer that we purchased. So
that's amazing. Amazing. Is Brian here? Maybe we can get a picture of the team. And oh yes, there you are. I'm sorry. Could we get a picture of them with the screen behind them? And I think that would be wonderful.
Can I add one more thing?
Of course.
I wasn't aware that Mr. Ramirez was dedicating his time to pull the trailer, so I want to say thank you to Mr. Ramirez. There you go.
We don't care how it gets there, as long as it's there.
I also want to thank Mr. Ramirez. Through the process of purchasing the trailer, it took a coordination working with the custom Clubhouse Trailers is the name of the custom trailer company, our graphics design company, who was also a band parent who donated that as well. So it was a coordinated effort, and Mr. Ramirez was fundamental in making that happen. So we wouldn't have had it on time if it wasn't for him. So thank you.
Thank you.
Ms. Sharp, before you move on, I wanted to say one more thing. Mr. Senna, which side of the trailer have you personally purchased with all of the hamburgers you purchased from the bench at football games? Because I've never been to a football game that you haven't had a band burger.
Because those band burgers are really good. And what day is the Greyhound Band Booster Turkey Dinner? What day is that? I mean, if y'all haven't been to that, you're missing something. You need to go and bring your whole family.
Thank you again for staying. We appreciate your presentation.
Have a good night.
That is all I have to say about the results of operations for the period ended August 31. Does anybody have any questions or comments on that?
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Wes, you mentioned the federal, because I noticed under the original budget was like 2.2 million in local and then $1.1 million or $1.2 million federal. It's really going to be inverted, right?
Yes, we need to make a budgetary amendment there that we bring that forward with we anticipate bringing the regular budget amendment for the general fund in October, and that'll be a good time to bring child nutrition forward as well.
Well, just to let you know, I taught the Sunday school lesson the other day to kindergarten through fifth grade kids at my church, and I brought with me the elementary school lunch menu for the week, and we took a vote which ones they wanted to pick. And the corn dogs were popular, the pizza of course was popular, and I asked them about the pizza, and they say the pizza is really better than it used to be, so that's good to know. I don't know if it is or isn't, but that's what about 100 kids said. So I give the feedback to your folks.
Between the burgers and the pizza there, Rich, be careful.
All right, well, thank you. Board, do I have a motion?
Madam President, I move to approve the budget amendments, donation report, and tax collection reports as presented.
Okay, your motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor of the motion, please say aye. Opposed, please say nay. Motion passes 7-0. Thank you. Next up, redemption resolution.
All right. In August, we brought forward a redemption resolution for the 2015 refunding. This is the same resolution with an additional item added for the 2036 maturity of the 2015 refunding that will become callable in the 22-23 year. It's a little bit unusual, but it has a lot to do with the INS tax rate that we're going to discuss shortly. What we'll do with that additional $1 million that we didn't talk about in August is we'll put those monies in escrow, and in somewhere between the November to February timeframe next year, we'll release those monies from escrow. We'll add another $7 million to that, presumably from the next year's INS levy, not the INS levy we're talking about today, but for 22-23, and we'll fully defease the 2015 refund, 14 refunding. I'm sorry, I'm misspeaking. The 14 refunding. That's defeasing that $8 million is going to save the district about $3 million in interest. But it will give us the flexibility that we need to do really good things with debt for the district. Does anybody have any questions related to the redemption resolution?
Okay. Anybody have a motion?
Yeah, I move that the Board of Trustees adopt an order authorizing the redemption of any currently outstanding maturities pursuant to a delegated defeat.
Second.
A motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, please say nay. Motion passes 7-0. Thank you. All right, next we're going to have our public hearing on the proposed tax rate. And at this point, yeah, I'm going to say the time at the moment, well, we'll go ahead and do the time now, correct? And then have him present and have it open, or we do our open afters? Okay, go ahead and we'll have you present first.
All right. Just as a reminder, Texas Education Code 44 mandates a public hearing to discuss the proposed tax rate. And that's going to be largely guided today by the House Bill 3. Y'all may have heard of House Bill 3. That's has a huge impact on what we're going to talk about today. Just a couple of quick reminders on that. The property values are a huge driver now in what the rate and on how the rate's calculated. Here is a quick picture of values in Bernie ISD. Market values came up 10% from $9.9 billion to almost $11 billion. New property values came in 16% higher at a market value. The taxable values came up 9%. I think I want to point out that that $9.166 billion is very, very close to our budget assumptions back in June. Here is a 6-year picture of valuations, a nice steady rise from $7 billion up to over almost $11 billion. Here is the same picture of new property values over that time. It's not quite as steady, but it's generally up. Here is a much longer picture of tax rate history, and what I want to point out about the tax rate is from 2009 until 2019, your M&O rate was $1.04 that entire time. The fluctuations you see are all tied to your bond elections in 2016 is the biggest fluctuation there. Of course, in 2020 was the first year House Bill 3 and the tax compression associated with it came into play.
You know, it might be worth going back 3 years early, West, to 2006, when the tax rate was $1.75.
Yeah.
This makes it look a little more, I mean, this is impressive, but that makes it look.
I couldn't fit it on the screen. Yeah, that is very true. Very true. Just a few terms that we want to remind ourselves of as we go through the tax rate adoption process. The MCR, the maximum compressed rate, is what's determined by the state now under House Bill 3. TEA administrates that on behalf of the state. The Tier 2 describes the 4 golden pennies that the district has. The 5th golden penny, and we'll probably stop talking about the 5th golden penny next year and just include it in Tier 2, but that was adopted unanimously by the board last year. And TRE, or the tax ratification election, is not a part of today's process, so I'm not gonna talk about that anymore. Here is a picture of our M&O rates, or our M&O rate for this year. The 8306 is what was calculated by the state. That is a 5.7% decrease from the prior year. We have our 5 golden pennies, get to 8806. Any questions or comments on the M&O tax rate? Our total rate, 73% of our rate is the M&O as calculated by the state. 27% is the INS rate of 0.324. That is a 1 penny increase from the prior year. The 1 penny increase really positions the district well to address current and future debt needs. I was looking recently at a listing of fast growth districts and their INS rates. I believe Mr. Senna provided me with that list, and we're right at the bottom as far as INS rates are concerned, and that penny keeps us well within the bottom. That 1 penny translates, that's about $40 a year to the average taxpayer. That translates to between $800,000 and $900,000 in collections, $800,000 or $900,000 towards principal payments. Saves the district. You calculate this almost any way you want, but I'm looking at that as about a $500,000 in interest savings a year. Let me rephrase that. Not a year. Over the course of I'm talking about 30-year debt and a 15-year average. So you every time you pay that up front, you're saving the district a lot of interest over the course of time. Interest being the least useful thing that we spend tax dollars on. Are there any questions or comments about the proposed tax rate as a whole?
Not as a whole, Mr. Scott, but the penny there really is what is going to facilitate the next defeasance on the 2014, right?
Yes. The comptroller's office calculates the voter-approved tax rate, or they govern the calculation of that voter-approved tax rate. That rate comes out to 1.2749. The rate that we're adopting is well within that rate. And this is probably one of the more useful screens I think we have in this presentation, and just showing what the average taxpayer paid last year and what they paid this year. And I'm sorry, I'm losing my voice here, but $94 over the previous year. So tax compression doesn't necessarily mean tax reduction. You offset that with the increase in values. But the tax compression did limit the average tax bill to a 2% increase.
You know, I just think it's worth mentioning, you know, when people talk about property taxes, they invariably say, well, it's mostly to the schools. And that's true, it is. However, if you look now, of course, in Bernie ISD, it's challenging because there's so many different municipalities. We're not all in the city of Bernie with a city of Bernie tax rate. You've got people in Kendall County that live in the county but don't pay the city tax rate. You've got people in Fair Oaks that have a Fair Oaks city tax rate. You've got people in Bear County that pay Bear County tax. So there's a lot of different variations. But when you look, if you look at the average of that, you go back 15 years and you say, okay, what was the average homeowner paying in school taxes back then when the average value was about $240, $250? It's gone up to $446 now. What they're paying today in taxes is about $700 less than the rate of inflation in that period of time. So I'm not saying that's tax relief. They're still paying more than they were 15 years ago. It's just that as appraisals have skyrocketed, the increase that people pay in school taxes has really been like maybe 15% in the last 15 years. It hasn't been that much. Whereas if you have a governmental entity that has the same tax rate as 15 years ago, but your property appraisals have doubled, you're paying double the taxes, not 15% more. So I think that some of the compression efforts the state has tried to do is bearing some fruit. And we just ought to know that, you know, because nobody likes paying property taxes, but it's, you know, that's how we fund our schools. Yeah.
Okay. Are we ready to open it up for our public hearing?
Yes, ma'am.
All right. It is 9:21, and we're opening up to the floor. Any comments from the floor? I hear none. So at that point, I'm going to close our hearing at 9:20. We'll say 22. And it's probably 21 and a half, but all right. So let's see. Next, we're going to go ahead and do our...
I have a motion if you'd like one.
Yes, please.
Madam President, I move that the property tax rate be increased by the adoption of a tax rate of $1.2046, which is effectively a 0.31% increase in the tax rate.
I hear a motion. Do I hear a second?
I'll second the motion.
I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, please say nay. Motion passes 7-0. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right. Next agenda. Let's see. That's it, right? Yes. Okay. Next agenda, future business. Next meeting, progress monitoring report, EL and bilingual report, report on class size, district and campus improvement plans. I always enjoy reading those. Quarterly investment report and report on technology. Do I have a motion to adjourn tonight's meeting? Motion and a second. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Anybody opposed? All right, motion passes. Everybody have a wonderful